Hey everybody, so Emmanuel Macron got into it with the, missus. It's hard to believe, isn't it, as the couple so ideally matched. Personally, I think he should settle things with his wife, man to man.
You're a man, aren't you, Archie? And let's fight like men!
You know, Milton Friedman once gave us a good explanation as to why government spending is wasteful.
You can spend your own money on yourself. And when you spend your own money on yourself, you're very careful of what you spend it on, and you make sure that you get the most for your dollar. You can spend your own money on somebody else. You give gifts to other people. You take people out to dinner. And when you spend your own money on somebody else, you're very careful that you don't spend too much. You try to keep down the amount you spend. But you don't worry very much about what the other fellow's getting from it. You don't pay anything like as much attention to the gifts you buy for other people as to the things you buy for yourself. Or you can spend somebody else's money, as when you're spending the government's money. I say the government's money, the taxpayers' money, which the government has control of. Now you're spending somebody else's money. Let's say you're spending your boss's money. You're out to lunch on a expense account, but you're spending it on yourself. You're very careful that you get good things for your money. You try to have a good lunch and pick the right things, but you're not very much worried about whether you get the cheapest. Spend all you want, and you'll be careless. Now, what happens when you spend somebody else's money on somebody else? You're a distributor of welfare funds. Well, you're interested in making your own life as good as you can. And most people have humane instincts and want to do the best they can, but you're not going to be anything like as careful in spending somebody else's money on somebody else. So there are 4 ways in which you can spend money.
But this is incorrect. Most Democrats are not humane, as well as establishment Republicans. What happens when they fake spending money on somebody else, but are actually giving it to someone entirely different in the name of spending on that somebody else, who then spends a good chunk of the money back on them? You get a fraudulent money laundering Ponzi scheme, and you're very careful that Elon Musk doesn't expose that, and you demonize his efforts at every stage.
So there's actually 5 types of spending.
In the wake of Jake Tapper's book, will anyone now finally address that when Biden was with children in videos, they were absolutely revolting and clearly showed us a sickening pervert? Or does someone in the mainstream media have to profit off a book in order for us to officially see what we saw? Just wondering. Okay, hear me out. After much analysis of facial features, state-of-the-art voice analysis, scrutiny of incredible wealth accumulation, rough East Coast masculine energy coupled with blinding anti-masculine, anti-working class hatred of Trump, and a massive fall from grace in artistry and respect and influence, it can now be scientifically proven that Bruce Springsteen and Robert De Niro are actually the same guy. Okay, maybe it's not scientific, and you might point out that the boss now looks like a transitioning lesbian, but I maintain same nose, same squinting, I've seen some real shit grimacing faces, same working class tough guy with a heart of gold BS aura, while somehow maintaining total allegiance to global elites on everything, and both having net worths over $500 million and completely out of touch. I'm telling you right now, same guy.
America I've written about that has been a beacon of hope is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration.
Springsteen really needs to go away.
Shut up. Expecting a number somewhere north of 87. Comes in strong, 98.0. That is the best number since February of this year.
The world doesn't seem to agree with Bruce De Niro over here. And as a special punishment, I think Bruce Springsteen should be forced to do the economic news.
Consumer confidence was 11 points higher than expected, thanks to the work of this corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration. In other news, Trump just approved the U.S. Steel deal, which will ensure $14 billion in capital investment projects. It'll also protect and create 100,000 jobs in Pennsylvania. I think I'm feeling a bit woozy. I need to lay down.
Actors and singers need to take a page from Elvis.
What is your opinion of war protesters, and would you today refuse to be drafted?
Honey, I just seem to keep my own personal views about that to myself, because I'm just an entertainer, and I'd rather not say.
Do you think other entertainers should keep their views to themselves too?
No, I can't even say that.
Quick word, everyone. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Ground News. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a sponsor, which means I'm alone and I need your help. Which is why I'd ask you to consider going to my Patreon page, patreon.com/jokesinapoint. I'd like to thank recent member Pat. Thank you, Pat. Merchandise will be created, and I'll even be giving up my anonymity, trying to come up with bonus material and content to express my appreciation. But also the simple acts of liking and subscribing is all critical. And to everyone who's helped me out, I'm grateful, and I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I hope everyone had a good Memorial Day. Oh, Memorial Day? Wait, I think I got that wrong.
I am Mayor Brandon Johnson, and I am proud to join you in recognizing and celebrating Africa Day.
Africa Day, which we all know is the official start of summer. I'm sure this wasn't some Marxist attempt to undermine Memorial Day in any capacity. Why would anyone want to do that? Why would anyone try to upstage the many heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice? I guess they don't want you to dig in too much into that, because the ones who made that ultimate sacrifice, 90% of them were white men. No DEI program was in place for that. And by the way, I can recognize that females in all races have sacrificed for the nation. I wouldn't even be tempted to look at the stats on the subject, except the left is on a crusade against white people, particularly the men, and they won't stop. It makes Memorial Day even more somber and distressing to think about, because all these heroic people who perished in the prime of their lives died for a nation that has given us an auto-pen dictatorship for 4 years, a place where you ended up on a terrorist watch list if you failed to pledge allegiance to Pfizer, or maybe you voiced some objections at your school board meeting. Did soldiers die so we could be lectured about how our society was built on slavery and we need to respect the pronouns and trans kids everywhere and have non-stop equity workshops? All the while we could listen to non-stop weepy speech about how Trump was the nemesis of democracy, as they tried countless times to deny us from our choice to elect him.
Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper.
Now the left is freaking out about Harvard, who lost a Supreme Court case over affirmative action, and yet they maintained an office of equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging, who also had a president, Claudine Gay, who ended up having to resign over being a plagiarist and for not quite being able to bring herself to condemn calls for genocide. They're fighting very hard to maintain their anti-Semitic independence and anti-American integrity. That is an important issue. Where can you hate Jews and still be considered elite? Where can people engage in lively religious persecution and still be invited to cosmopolitan dinner parties? Can you call for a global genocide and still be allowed past the velvet ropes to hang with the primo A-listers of society? Yes, you can. You just have to go to an Ivy League school. When you fill out the application, just stick a Free Palestine in there. Promo code Hamas sent me.
And all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. You know, I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial.
Fact check true.
How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics?
How? Promo code Hamas sent me. Is Harvard really that left-wing? You bet your burqa it is. According to polls by the Harvard Crimson, 80% of the faculty is very liberal or liberal, and only 2 to 3% are conservative. That's 2 to 3% of an opposing viewpoint. At a place where you're supposed to have the highest levels of an intellectual, robust debate. Harvard doesn't seem to like a system that prizes merit above overt racism. That may sound strange, but you really just have to be an Ivy Leaguer to understand. Trump is demanding merit, diversity of viewpoints, vetting of international students, and reforms like forbidding masks during protests, and getting rid of their DEI programs because, again, they lost their Supreme Court case. And also not being so Jew-hatey. Trump is only threatening them by withholding taxpayer money. Do I want my money going to elite leftists who hate merit and Jews?
No!
If they want to racialize everything and turn themselves into a South Park episode, that's their issue.
Put a ticket in, make a name it gay!
Just let them pay for it themselves. Promo code Hamas sent me. The left wants you to live in a world where there's only 2 to 3% conservative voices. They want reduced fat milk opposition. And that's why they hate Elon Musk. He didn't wipe out the left on Twitter. He just evened the seesaw a little bit. But that was enough for the left to lose its mind. They demand domination, which is why they blame Joe Rogan and other podcasters for getting Trump elected. We saw this myth play out in the Tim Dillon CNN interview.
There's very, very successful comedians that are left of center comedians.
Like who?
First of all, not to be unkind, but looking at this woman reminded me of something.
And, let's agree not to cheat.
Cheat!
Secondly, in her mind, left-wing comedy doesn't exist. Did she not bother watch Jimmy Kimmel or Colbert? Actually, a lot of people don't, as they are Democrat shills. It's true, they aren't funny, but that's no longer their purpose. Neither is Saturday Night Live. It was really sad in this interview that Dillon almost had to go out of his way to reassure the nice propagandist that there's plenty of thought tyranny agents out there for her.
This idea that like left-wing like where are they? Where are they? Where are they to be found? Where's Amy Schumer? I don't know. She's in her $15 million townhouse in Brooklyn. I think she'll be okay. I think these people will be okay.
But her show was canceled.
She just had a show on Hulu called Life in Bath. She just had a movie come out on Netflix. I mean, Amy's doing good.
Okay.
Yeah, they're fine. All these people are fine. I will text a few of them and go, people are worried about you.
Laying all the blame at the feet of Joe Rogan and his podcast crew speaks to what Democrats consider a fair fight. Again, they want 98% of thought to be pleasant to their ears. They want a Harvardized world. If there was a conservative on a walkie-talkie or doing Morse code, they'd be freaking out about that too. Never mind that Rogan was an Obama and Bernie voter. I'm sure she didn't know that, but I also think she wouldn't care.
That would be unhelpful to the narrative.
If the idea is that me and a few comedians have more power than multi-billionaires, huge media institutions, a whole political party apparatus, I just don't think most people are going to buy that. I think it seems like a great way to excuse running an unpopular candidate on a platform that American people weren't sold on.
You are correct, sir. Yes!
The real issue is that the Democrats lost men. They lost men and are losing more of them, black, white, Hispanic, for good reason. Democrats antagonize them with their policies. You can't both appeal to working class men and yet tailor everything you do to woke, college-educated, elite liberal women. How did they do that? They catered entirely to illegal immigrants who threaten working class jobs and wages, and they threaten their lives by chucking them into needless wars with a strong dose of wokeism. They can invest $20 million into researching this, but everybody already knows. They can try again with what I term the flannel pander commercials, trot out the has-been masculine entertainment figures like Springsteen and DeNiro, or everyman guys like Michael Keaton and Tom Hanks, runs cringe commercials where men wouldn't have the balls to openly say who they would vote for, or portraying men in other cringe videos where you know they pee sitting down. It ain't gonna work. Rogan has a large male audience out of the 11 million who listen to him, but Democrats Bud Lit themselves.
They're not around or you can't find them? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
No, but there's not
They're all doing
this
great.
cultural energy. I just
Left-wing comedy?
I don't see like a little ecosystem or like a galaxy.
The Democrats trotted out the comedy team of Jumbled in Shambles for their presidential hopes. Remember, Harris could have done Joe Rogan's show, and Waltz wasn't able to do Tim Dillon's show either. In reality, they can't do an authentic long-form conversation with anyone. Remember, Harris had to have her 60 Minutes interview Frankenstein together to deceive audiences. Her trying to do Rogan for 3 hours would be like watching a toddler trying to climb Mount Everest. Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe. Be sure to pass around to anybody who might like my content. And I'll see you the next time.